at that particular job, I was a team lead, and there were 10 other certified appraisers that I worked with right beside. And we did some intense review work and learned a lot. I think that was next to my SRA classes and training. That 13 months working at Digital Risk on the Fannie Mae contract was probably the most educational section or segment of my career.
Originating from deep inside the Rocky Mountains, transported through the power of the internet, and arriving inside your tiny earbuds. It's the Appraiser Coach Podcast, helping appraisers increase their efficiency, quality, and make more money. Here's the guy who makes it his life's mission to create value for real estate appraisers nationwide. Your host and the Appraiser Coach, Dustin Harris.
And welcome, everybody. Dustin Harris hanging out in the podcast chair. I want to welcome you, of course, to 2019 already. Of course, this will air a couple of weeks after the new year, but hopefully it's off to a good start for you. I know it has been for us, and we're grateful for that. Thank you for listening, each and every one of you. Our numbers continue to grow, and they continue to grow because of episodes like today. It seems like when I go back and look through the episodes, it doesn't matter how provocative the topic might be. The ones that get the most hits are these appraiser stories where I have some of my colleagues from across the country on to talk about their lives, to talk about their business, to talk about appraisals. And I've got a very unique individual, and you'll know why here in a minute as I introduce him, very unique individual on to tell his story. Again, this is called Appraiser Stories, but I have with me Mr. Nathan Pippin. Welcome to the program, Nathan. I appreciate you joining me.
Hey, good to be here.
So, Nathan, you kind of come at this from a little bit of a different background in the sense that you've had your schooling was not in appraisal, but in finance, right?
Yeah, I have a degree in accounting.
Okay, all right. So tell me the idea with that. You've been appraising what, 18 years, almost 2 decades. Did you plan on getting into appraisal when you went to the accounting route?
No, and actually, I didn't plan on getting into the accounting route when I got in the accounting route either.
Okay.
Many years ago, fresh out of high school, I wanted to get into the ag business, running a cattle ranch or a citrus farm somewhere in the area. And I had met a very, very wise rancher in the area who gave me some wisdom. At the time, I was
looking into like hell.
At the time, I was looking into getting some type of degree in ag operations management or horticulture or something along those lines. And he said, Nathan, anything you want to know about growing a cow or an orange tree, you could teach yourself. Go rent a book from the library. He said, son, you need to learn how to run a business. If you don't know how to read your financial statements, your bank statements, your balance sheet, your profit and loss, if you don't know how to talk to your accountant, he said, you're useless. Go learn how to run a business. And that's where the epiphany came that I needed some type of accounting, business, finance degree. And that was kind of the beginning of the end. That's how I got into the accounting world.
I love it. You know, this is something that you might find interesting, Nathan, is I'm often asked, by individuals who are looking to get into college, and specifically people who want to do appraisal, but also want to have a college degree. We know that in a lot of states that's not required anymore, but still, there's that college background. There's some classes that are strongly encouraged, if not required in some states. But I often get asked as a coach of other appraisers, if you could go back and do it again, what would your degree be in? And I, without hesitancy, say either a degree in marketing or accounting, and whichever one I choose, an emphasis in the other. I think marketing is huge. I think accounting is absolutely phenomenal or foundational, I should say, in making sure that, like you said, if you can't read a profit loss, if you can't read a balance sheet, if you can't understand how to balance your checkbook, you're going to be in trouble as a business owner. Good for you.
Absolutely.
Good for you. So you talk about a citrus farm. You're obviously not located in Idaho.
No, not at all.
Where are you at?
We're in South Central Florida.
Okay, awesome.
Probably about 100 miles south of Orlando and about 60 miles northwest of West Palm Beach.
Okay, nice. So it's nice and warm there, even though it's blustering cold here in Idaho as we're recording this. And I'm not jealous.
It is pleasant out today.
You say you've been doing this almost 2 decades. Has it always been in Florida?
It has. It's always been right here in this region, the Okeechobee, Heartland, and Treasure Coast region of Florida.
Okay. A lot of wannabe appraisers listen to this program, and I know that what's on their mind right now is, okay, Nathan, I understand times have changed. I mean, this was almost 20 years ago when you got into this gig, but what did get you into appraising? And with that, who did you choose, and how did you choose a mentor?
So the way that I got into appraising was I was very young, and my wife and I at the time were purchasing our first house, and our real estate broker was also a real estate appraiser. Huh. And she knew I was at that place in my life where I was trying to pick a direction and a career, and she encouraged me to go take my appraisal classes at the local community college, and I did. And after I did that, she brought me on and mentored me through to my certification.
Nice. Well, very cool. That is going to be something that I think causes a lot of wannabe appraisers to be a little bit jealous, where they have a struggle sometimes getting to that place. Any regrets looking back?
Not necessarily about the appraisal business per se. I started the path towards an SRA designation in the last year, and it's not necessarily a regret. I've just learned so much. I wish I had started it sooner.
Yeah. I've heard a lot of people that have either gone through their SRA or their MAI and said, I didn't really understand appraisal until I went through that process. Thought I did, but definitely, but really didn't. Yeah. Sometimes
the depth of knowledge and experience and being mentored by another SRA or MAI is priceless.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk a little bit about that. That's kind of what brought you and I together. I had an opportunity to meet and shake your hand in Las Vegas after a mutual friend of ours, Mr. Tim Andersen, who does the Deer USPAP instructor here on the podcast, introduced us. And tell me what your connection is to Tim.
So about 16 or 17 years ago, I was sitting in a last-minute continuing education course, and quite literally, when I say last minute, I mean last minute.
That's what everybody does, though.
And Tim Andersen was one of the instructors. Lovely. And I just from that point, we had made a relationship with each other, and over the years, it's become personal, and we've also done some business together. And nice. Now he is my mentor for my SRA program.
That is awesome. And I'll tell you could not have picked a better guy, and a guy who truly understands inside and out, almost to a fault, I would say. And Tim, I think is okay with me saying that man, that guy understands inside and out much more than most appraisers across the country do. How this stuff works.
Someone needs to plug a USB port into him and download him.
Exactly right. Yep, you're exactly right. I love it. I love it. So tell me a little bit about your business then. Just you? Do you have a firm? Do you have other appraisers you work for? Or kind of paint the picture for us?
So in the course of the last 18 years since I've been in business, I have scaled several times for several different reasons. Sometimes it was just the availability of help or employees or other certified appraisers. Sometimes it was the ebbs and flows of the markets. And then sometimes it was just my desire to have a larger firm or just some simplicity for a season.
Sure. Where are you at now?
Right now, I find myself working alone. In the past year or so, I have dabbled a little bit with trying to find and employ what I would call a report writer, somebody that's not a trainee, somebody that's not a fellow certified appraiser, but somebody that can just take a work file that I've assembled and write a report. And I know those people are out there. I know that skill set is out there. I just happen to be located in a place where those people aren't. There isn't a plethora of that. So I've struggled trying to find the absolute right person for that position long term.
Okay. So tell me about your process now. Or do you, other than this person that you're thinking about, possibly bringing on, are you comfortable where you're at right now with the type of volume that you're doing, the type of work that you're doing, residential, commercial, mixture? Tell me more about your situation there.
So my firm is 100% residential. In fiscal year 18, we did about 220-ish assignments, and they could have been anything from a rent schedule to drive-by, full appraisal FHA, anywhere in between, just run-of-the-mill residential appraisal firm. I'm content with where I'm at. I'm content. I like a healthy balance of work. I have I have a girlfriend and 4 kids and 4 dogs, and we have a travel trailer. And
nice.
I have to go to Las Vegas a couple times a year for some continuing education, and I'm content with the current model.
I tell you the interesting thing about you, Nathan, and one thing that keeps popping up, and I hear this word a lot from you. I've also heard, in not that we talk about you a lot, Tim, but your name has come up, Nathan, when I've talked to Tim, and this word that keeps popping up in the conversation is education. It seems like you put a premium on education.
I think there's a lot to be said, especially with how fluid this business is right now, as opposed to logging on to a online class and just merely going through the 30 hours versus going somewhere like Nashville or Vegas or Charleston and immersing yourself amongst your peers, listening to the players in the industry talk, listening to your peers talk. I think there's a lot to be said for those of us that take it to that level right this second, especially with the volatility and the fluidity that's in the industry right this second.
I'm going to push you a little bit, Nathan, and ask why. I hear what you're saying, and I think I know where you're going with this. When you say, there's something to be said about maybe taking an online or a live class versus an online, I'm going to push you to be a little bit more specific. What is to be said about that? What benefit do you gain on that side?
I think it's twofold. I think in business, you want to give your client something of value. I could be just another run-of-the-mill, have just enough education, just enough credentials appraiser. But, when a client picks up my report and they read it, I want it not just to meet their needs, but also to be something of value to them. As well, I believe there's a lot of liability in the business right this second as well. So that's why I want to be at the conventions, and I want to hear the CoreLogics, and I want to hear the Fannie Mae's, and I want to hear my peer appraisers and people that are senior to me. I want to hear what they have to say, and I want to see where the business is going.
I love it. Let me back up, and maybe I'm spending too much time on this. And if I am, just slap me and we'll move on. But I want to back up to this idea of you having a degree in accounting. And I know you talked about that being a benefit on the business side. Do you also find that to be a benefit or maybe even a detriment on the appraisal side?
It is in the residential appraisal world, it's probably neutral.
Okay.
In my business model, I also offer some a little bit of business consulting, some bookkeeping, and some payroll services. So it complements well, but I don't know that it's the one. I don't think it's the one thing that makes me a good or bad appraiser.
Okay, interesting. Let's talk a little bit about your local area. I know a little bit about the Florida area. I've got several appraiser friends down there, Tim being one of them. I've got two mastermind students that are there in Florida. But for those that are not familiar with that particular area, tell us a little bit about what makes your appraisal geographic area unique.
So my hometown, where my office is and my home is Okeechobee. I'm fifth generation here. Go way back. My family goes back. We're just local. When you hear the words Okeechobee, when you ride into town, it's far from any of the more metro areas that Florida is known for. Okay. The Jacksonville, the Orlando, the Miamis, the Tampas. It's population just a little less than 40,000. The cattle production, dairy production, citrus production is probably the largest industry in the community and in the area. We're right at the top of the second largest freshwater lake in the country, Lake Okeechobee. And so there's a little tourism component there, but it's not the Disney component. It's just a different component.
Very good. So you can be appraising a tract home in the morning and a lakefront property in the afternoon.
And you could be looking at a double wide manufactured home on 5 acres, somewhere in between.
Love it. So 18 years of doing this, Nathan, you've got to have some stories to tell. Tell me something unique or something that stands out as being, this is, I would not have had this experience had I not been an appraiser.
I've had a few. Probably one of the most intense experiences is several years ago, maybe 2006, 2007. The U.S. Marshal Service had engaged my firm to do an appraisal of a property that they had seized, and they escorted us in, and we did what we had to do, and then we left, and it was just an interesting experience.
Yeah.
And for a season, sometime between 2013 and 2014, and at the moment, this might be the highlight of my career, I actually worked as a forensic review appraiser for a company out of Boca Raton called Digital Risk. And we were doing some forensic level review work on contract for Fannie Mae. And at that particular job, I was a team lead, and there were 10 other certified appraisers that I worked with right beside. And we did some intense review work and learned a lot. I think that was next to my SRA classes and training. That 13 months working at Digital Risk on the Fannie Mae contract was probably the most educational section or segment of my career.
I've had an opportunity to coach and mentor several appraisers, maybe not, with the quote unquote digital risk side of things, but they've worked for Fannie Mae in various areas. And every single one of them have told me the exact same thing, that was an invaluable experience to learn what truly happens behind the scenes. In other words, why is it that we get the revision requests that we get? Why is it that we're asked to do things a certain way? Because they have a very fine set of paths that they need to travel there on Fannie Mae. And it's interesting to see that side of the coin.
Absolutely.
Well, we're talking with Nathan Pippin. He is an appraiser out of Florida. And this is, of course, Ask the Appraiser. I want to pause here and remind you that, of course, we are sponsored by 3 great companies, Alamode being one of them. Alamode, of course, is the software that I've been using for years and years and years. That's right. Alamode is the software that I use to help me to be more efficient and more effective at what I do. Had an opportunity just this morning to talk to a variety of appraisers on my Appraiser Academy, and we talked about software, and we talked specifically about Alamode, and the consensus was Alamode helps them to get things done in a much quicker and more efficient and higher quality manner. Check them out. Go to alamode.com to learn more information. You can pick up the phone, of course, and call them at 800-ALAMODE. We are sponsored, of course, by Working RE Magazine. Working RE is the place that I go to find out all kinds of information. We've been talking a little bit with Nathan about education, and I'll tell you, a lot of that education, it may not be formal, but lots of informal and even formal education as far as CE can be found at workingre.com. Folks, if you're not part of their free email that comes out on a regular basis, check it out. Go to workingre.com and sign up. Just put your email in there, and maybe about once or twice a week, you might get an email from Working RE talking about something that is of importance to appraisers. Check them out. Go to workingre.com. Again, it's workingre.com. And finally, we, of course, are sponsored by DataMaster. DataMaster is the software that you can use to save 30 to 60 minutes per report. That's because you're able to download data directly into your report, data that you would have to put in by hand or pay someone else to put it in by hand. I'll tell you, folks, the ability to analyze with the new DataMaster 6 is absolutely mind-blowing. If you thought the first DataMaster was incredible, check out DataMaster 6. You can find out about both of those products by going to datamasterusa.com. One more time, it's datamasterusa.com. All right, folks, welcome back to the program. Another Appraiser Stories for you today, where we have an opportunity to reach out to my colleagues, your peers across the nation, and find out a little bit about them and about their business and about being an appraiser across the country. We're talking today, of course, with Mr. Nathan Pippin. Welcome back to the program, Nathan.
Thank you.
So, Nathan, talk to me. You've been in this long enough, 18 years, you say. Tell me, get your crystal ball out, if you will, and tell me where you think we're going as a profession. And lots of changes happening in the last couple of years. Where do you see things in the next few years?
Well, this is entirely speculative and Nathan version of it, but
that's what we want.
I think that the industry as a whole should probably put some emphasis on giving the client what they want in a more meaningful way. And what I mean by that is easily a run-of-the-mill appraisal report is probably 35 to 40 pages long.
Sure.
And I'm guessing that almost every client flips to the bottom of page 2 to the very, very last line and looks at it. And then
that's the effective date, right? That's what they're going for.
And then they hand it off.
Yep.
And I'm not sure that every iota of every page of that report is meeting the client's needs. And so I don't know if that means taking a more simplistic or a more meaningful approach, but that's kind of where I see, or what I think, or where I think this whole thing should be headed.
Yeah. Well, and like it or not, it seems like we are headed in that direction. You talked about Fannie Mae earlier. It seems like Fannie Mae and the GSEs in general are pushing for faster, maybe more simplistic, whether they be desktops, hybrids. What are your thoughts on that? You see that direction growing?
I'm all about it. I'm actually excited for that change. I'm actually excited not to walk out to another house in the middle of July and put my tape measure on it.
Now, come on, July in Florida is not July in Idaho. So, but I hear you. So that's interesting, because I think your peers across the nation, some of them might disagree with you and say that maybe it's a direction we shouldn't be going as a profession. What are your thoughts with somebody like that?
I don't know that it's a direction we shouldn't be going. I don't see it ever completely going away. There's probably going to be some type of mix of both clients that want the appraiser to put their feet on the ground and others who are okay with someone else looking at it. I know with some of the work that I have already done and seen that when you send, for example, a home inspector or a insurance inspector out to do the field work, they're actually doing a level of observation that's even more detailed than what we do as appraisers. You're getting more data and more quality data and more specific data. When we walk through a house, we're detail oriented, but we're pretty general. I couldn't tell you to the percentage how much tile versus carpet. I could generalize what the ratio was, but some of the stuff I'm getting back with what I'm working on, I'm getting some pretty detailed field work back from these inspectors. So I really don't think it's something we should be afraid of or scared of. I think it's something we should embrace. And I think it gives us appraisers an opportunity to sit down at our desk and crack open the data and do what we were supposed to do. And that's analyze market information.
Analyze. Yeah. Instead of being the walkthrough individual, the one that actually puts the numbers to the paper and makes sense of it all. Interesting.
Yep,
so, Nathan,
absolutely.
Where does that put you and I specifically you? Let's talk you, not me. Where does that put you as a business owner? Where do you see your business going in the next couple of years? Lots of change happening.
Yeah, I hope that the business becomes more office-centric and more data-centric. And I think that's the most important thing here is going to the numbers and making the numbers make sense and making those numbers make sense for the client in a way that they can use it. I don't know that it's as meaningful to them that I went out and determined that the house had a metal roof versus a shingle roof, as opposed to me, sitting here at my desk and really looking at the data and working through the numbers and telling them what the supply and demand is, or what the factors are that are affecting demand or not affecting demand. I think that's, time much better spent by an appraiser is sitting here looking at the market data and reporting on it.
Yeah. I wonder, just off the top of my head, Nathan, I wonder how often we as appraisers do spend a lot of time analyzing data that may not be very meaningful in the overall value calculation, and less time than we probably should looking at actual market trends and actual numbers and what they actually mean. I think what you've said is
Absolutely.
wise. Yeah. So speaking of wise, after 18 years of doing this, what helpful tip can you give appraisers who are listening today? Something you've learned along the way that you think could be a benefit to my listeners?
So I think for me, probably in the last 2 to 3 years, especially in the last year, since I've gotten real involved with some of the conventions and meetings across the country, I don't think there's ever been as much emphasis put on adjustments and market data and actually having support for what you're saying, what you're surmising, and what you're reporting. And so I sat out about a year and a half, 2 years ago to find some type of solution to help me with this. And I looked at every regression software I could come across. I looked at every costing software I could come across. And I have invested in some regression software, and I've invested in some depreciating replacement cost software. And I have to tell you that this is probably one of the best investments I've made in my career. I actually have meaningful data in my work file that it'd be hard to argue with. There's a little subjectivity there, but it's something. And in a lot of cases, I think appraisers just don't have that something.
No, are you saying appraisers lick their finger and stick it in the air and that doesn't happen?
I'm saying appraisers do the best they can, but it's always better to have something in the file.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, my friend. Lightning round. Are you okay? Going boom, boom, boom. Okay. Are you an outside in or an inside out appraiser?
Outside in.
Okay, I love it. Tape, roller, or laser?
I'm almost embarrassed to say, but I am still pulling that 100-foot tape.
There's a few of you out there still, Nathan. I love it. Tablet computer, or clipboard and pen?
Clipboard and pen.
I could have guessed. Appraisal software?
I am a very happy Bradford ClickForms customer.
Love it. Jeff Bradford's a good friend of mine. Good guy.
Yes,
favorite thing to do when you're not appraising?
I happen to have 4 dogs and a mountain bike and a travel trailer. And at any one time, I thoroughly enjoy being out and about with any of them or all of them, or
love it.
Some variation thereof.
Good for you. Nathan, I cannot thank you enough for being on today. I've learned a great deal from you already. I'm sure my listeners have as well. Thank you for being out there. I'm glad we got a mutual friend named Tim in the mix here that brought us together.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate you being on, my friend. Good luck to you and moving forward this year and into the future. It's interesting to talk to an appraiser who is not fearful about the changes that are happening in the appraisal world, but seems like you're gung-ho and says, hey, let's make it work and let's focus on what we're good at, and that is analysis. I love that. I love that attitude. Thank you.
Very good.
All right, my friends. That was Nathan Pippin out of Florida. I appreciate him being on. And by the way, an open invitation to anybody, any appraiser across the nation, to be on the Appraiser Stories. We get a lot of feedback from appraisers who listen to this program. And I'm telling you, the numbers don't lie. You love to hear what your peers are doing. And I appreciate Nathan being willing to be on. And open invitation. Any of you who would like to be on, we would love to have you on. We don't do these things enough. And I know there's a lot of appraisers who have thought about it, but just have not pulled the trigger. Please reach out to my assistant. Just email theassistant@theappraisercoach.com. Find me on Facebook, or you can email me, thecoach@theappraisercoach.com. We would love to have you on the Appraiser Stories. For now, ta-ta, and we will be back next week. Thanks, guys.
You've been listening to the Appraiser Coach podcast with Dustin Harris. If you like what you hear, please give us a 5-star rating and post a short review on iTunes. For more in-depth insider information on how you can make more money as a real estate appraiser, visit theappraisercoach.com and sign up for the All-Star team today. Thanks for joining us. And now, get out there and create some value.
Test 1, 2, 3. Let me just get a test on your side.
Test 1, 2.
Ooh, see, I was afraid of that. Okay, hold on a second. Let me see how we're going to do this. I've got to fix that. Okay. I screwed with all the levels because I have a home office now with a home studio, and I played with it over the weekend, and I was afraid when I got back that we would have problems.
No worries.
So what I need to do, I know what I need to do. I need to change this. No, that's right. Let me change this to that. And then I'm going to change this to that. And welcome, everybody. Dustin Harris hanging out once again in the podcast chair. Welcome to 19. Holy cow. Let's start over.
We may have to work on this one a little bit.
That's okay. We got a great editor. I promise. He's really good.
So let me start that over again.
Sure.